Give me a little rundown of your background.
Yeah, right. So I'm a retired police detective, but I also go under on the title of police whistleblower for my role in speaking out about the deliberate cover-up of child prostitution. We'll just call it what it is. It's not a term that I endorse or anything like that. It's just what we call. And in doing so, I was threatened, bullied, and endured a horrific campaign to silence me by the police establishment or whatever, because it didn't want to get it out. And of course it did get out, and I started working with victims and survivors, and that's how I sort of come to prominence. But I was also a single parent of 4 kids. So my missus, if you could call it that, she buggered off when my youngest boy was 9 months old. So I was a single parent in the police, which was a hard job in itself. And then I had 4 kids to look after and keep them with me, and not social services intervention, things like that. So the last thing I ever wanted to do as a police officer, and then become a detective, was work with child protection. I had enough dysfunctionality of kids at home, let alone dealing with it when I went into work. So I did not want to deal with it. And I actually made a conscious effort never ever to deal with child-related cases. But destiny took me that way. God, destiny, whatever it is. The kids found me rather than I found the kids. And it came at a real twist. I was in the CID in central London, and it was hard work. And I had the kids at home, and luckily I've got good, tight family, and they were helping out. And a job came up, and it was one of these jobs in the police that everyone wants, and it was working on the river police. And it's a fantastic history, this. So the first ever police station in the world was built in 1798 in Wapping. Wapping Police Station was the oldest police in the world, and it was maritime policing. So that's why our legal system is based on the maritime courts. That's why you bail someone out, because you bail out a boat,
Oh, right.
And there's all these little quirky things, that go on. So it's maritime law, really, and all they've done is that they've just rejigged it and made it fit, because maritime law is a law of commerce.
Right.
And policing was set up on the river to protect the commerce from the ships coming in. They were getting robbed and all that. So anyway, it's a fantastic job, and it's not really that crime-riddled. If we're saying that, it had its day, under the Empire, when the Port of London Authority and the docks were coming in the 60s and 70s. And then when that went, it sort of just become dealing with pleasure crafts and various crimes related to that.
What was it that got you drawn into child protection?
Well, I went onto this unit because I could work 4 days on and 4 days off. So they had a shift pattern based really on the fire service. So you work 2 days, 12-hour days, 2 12-hour nights, and then got 4 days off. And I thought, brilliant. But for every applicant, there were 2,000 other applicants. So it was really tight. Anyway, I got on it. So I'm working on the river police. They taught me how to drive boats, how to tie knots and all that stuff. But they did nothing. They did sod all. They couldn't nick themselves shaving, as the saying goes,
Yeah.
And I was bored. So luckily I worked with a really good lad. And we just started arresting people. And it caused a bit of friction, because they didn't want us doing it, really, because it sort of screwed up their shift pattern. But because Wapping was on a tidal waterway, it's classed as a port, and had a special branch office there. And it was my first real intro into the intelligence services and how they work, and it's very subtle in this country. Anyway, there was a detective sergeant there who was on the intelligence side of it, and he saw me one day walking along. He bangs on the window of his office. He calls me and he said, "Come in here, sit down." He said, "What are you doing on this unit?" I went, "Well, I've got the kids at home." And he said, "I know that." He said, "But it's not for you." And I thought, this odd, he's going to kick me off. And I went, "Well, it serves a purpose." He said, "Are you bored?" I went, "No, terribly bored." He went, "Listen, I've got a job for you, but you can't tell anyone. It's covert, but you'll be working for me from now on." And I went, "Well, what about my shift pattern?" He went, "You're still going for your kids. You'll do 4 days and then 4 days off. I won't screw with it." He said, "But I want you to go onto the waterways and search for Peter." He said, what's happened is that in the intelligence side of it, that it's like an octopus. They call it a hydra. Their tentacles go everywhere. So in the prison system, you've got informants will be working in there. And later in my career, I became one of these people that would recruit informants in the prison service, in the prison population. So they would put a prisoner in with another prisoner to get information. So they'd be working for the police. They'd they'd monitor all the correspondence, all the phone calls. The sex offenders register had been brought out in 1997. And that means that you had to register as a sex offender in the police jurisdiction where you reside, right, within 28 days. If you move, you get then another 28 days, but then the clock starts again and you've got so if, say, for example, I lived in Hertfordshire and I was a pedophile and I've been released because I've been convicted of what they call a Schedule 1 sexual offence, I had 28 days to go to local police and say, my name's John, I'm a pedo.
Yeah.
And what someone will do, they'll watch this video now, cut that bit
I was
out,
thinking that as you said it.
That's what they'll do.
They won't.
They've done that a few times with me, stuff like that. So anyway, but then on day 27, I could then move to Bedfordshire and then I could start again.
Oh, I see.
But then you're transient, you see. You're transient. And if you're transient, there's a good chance back then police were quite proactive that you're going to get stopped by the police. If you're in a car or you're in a van or something, it could happen. And then you're going to flag up and then you're back inside. So what they started to do, the sex offenders, they started to use the waterway network. So if you've got a canal boat, you can move about and not get caught.
But this is a whole world.
Yeah.
No one knows about.
No one knows about.
The waterway sex offender.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I got the law changed. So in my career, I've had the law changed 3 times. And they said, look, get out there and I'll explain a little bit more about that. We've heard that there's 2 files in London that are living on canal boats. Your job is to, however you want to do it, you just do it. Whatever you need, the Scotland Yard's paedophile unit will cover it. So I said, I was rubbish at paperwork. So they said, well, what do you want? I said, can I have a secretary? So they went, yeah. So they gave me my own secretary, who was brilliant. She did all my paperwork for me, everything. And I said, can I have a push bike? So they went, yeah. They gave me a push bike. And I decided to patrol the waterways of London. And my target was to find another 2 sex offenders within a month. Within that first month, I found 90.
Wait, say that again.
90 in a month.
90.
Yeah. My target was 2. Find 2 in a month. I found 90.
Whoa.
And they were concentrated in clusters. And I couldn't work out why. A guy had written a book about sex offenders and their transient nature. And he was based in Cambridgeshire, and he was a policeman, and I went to see him. And I said, why has Cambridge got so many pedophiles, especially Peterborough? And he went, do you have any understanding of geographical profiling? I went, no. He said, well, look into it and come back and see me. So I went and read a book on geographical profiling, and it's all to do with patterns that we do as human beings. There's always more than one reason, but the geographical side, as well as the emotional side of a sex offender, which I'll cover in a minute because it's quite important. I'll cover that. And Peterborough is exactly 4 hours from Dover, and that might mean nothing. But the A1 is an ancient sort of road, you know, the old Roman arterial routes. And the A1 is the gateway to the north. So any commercial vehicle coming from Dover has to stop within 4 hours, right? And it stops usually in Peterborough because that's the 4-hour truck stop. And if there's anyone illegal getting on the lorries and things like that, they'd hide in the lorry. And when it stopped, that's when they'd get out and do a runner. So Peterborough had the most diverse criminal community in the country. Wow. From all over the world. They couldn't work out. And this guy sussed it. So I said, well, why am I getting all these sex offenders on these canal boats? And he said, get a map. And just look at what you've got and look at the law. So the law states in the policing district where you reside. But London was different. London's policing is in boroughs. A sex offender in London doesn't have 28 days on the 27th day, leave London. On day 27, he can move to Camden. And it starts again. Now, I think there's 27 boroughs in London. So it's 27 policing districts. And so I get this map and I lay it down, and then I look at the canals, and it was fascinating thing. I found that the borough division, it was what they call riparian. It was along waterway networks. The canals are so old that they formulated parish boundaries, which went on to become borough boundaries. So canals actually became a boundary. The River Thames is a boundary. You cross the Thames from north to south. You'll go from Westminster into Southwark, and there's the answer. But on certain junctures where you might have, like the River Lee meets the Grand Union Canal, you've got in certain places these marinas with 3 boroughs meeting. She'll have Waltham Forest, Hackney, and I don't know, there's another one, can't remember.
Yeah.
But they converge there, and there's a marina. So if I'm in a canal boat, which is livable, it was classed as alternative back then, a bit of a hippie type thing. They all liked a little bit of cannabis, so anyone who smoked a joint. It was quite a middle class movement as well because of that. Yeah, and there was a naivety that went with that. So anyone who smoked a joint, they sort of accepted as one of their own, and it was bizarre. My friend was an undercover officer, and he said the easiest people to infiltrate are the New Age travellers because of the middle class. They are just so naive, whereas they can't infiltrate the travelling community. It's impossible. They're so tight that it's a difficult one, So but this lot. So it was an alternative way of living back then, and it was a cheap way of living. So I could be on this marina on one bank now, and on my 27th day, just move my boat across, literally meters. I'm in another. At the same time, what I didn't realise was that the BBC brought out a programme called Rosie and Jim about 2 ragdolls that lived on a canal boat. It's called Rosie and Jim. It's if you Google it, it's quite synonymous, with the kids of like the 90s and the 80s, this Rosie and Jim. And it was all about these 2 little dolls that lived on this canal boat, and they went up and down. So they become like a bit of the kids' culture was that canal boats are nice, they're nice people that live on there.
God.
And I started finding that some of these boats would have these little rag dolls in there, or it might have a Barbie doll or an action man. I'm thinking, what's going on there? And the police put me in touch with a guy. He was a profiler. And he said, yeah, they're called indicators. You've got to know about indicators. The action man will mean he's into boys. The Barbie doll means girls. Go and get a warrant and search that boat.
Shit.
And I went, oh, well, I've got no evidence. He said, I've just given you the evidence. He said, there's not a judge in this country will go against you. Go and get a warrant. Anyway, went and got a warrant, searched the boat. Sure enough, bloke was far.
What have you found there?
But it was a sex offender. But
how did you find that?
Because he had this little action man doll in his window of his boat. It was based purely on that.
No, but once you got in and what was the proof of that? Did he have a computer with a hard drive?
No. His name revealed that he was a wanted sex offender.
Oh, I see.
And he'd evaded the register because he's on the canal boat.
Doing the whole moving around.
And then we found clusters of them. So they were. And then what you'd find also is because of this new age community that built up around this, a bit like when they had the New Age travellers, but they built up on the waterways. One of the guys on there was running a babysitting service for these sort of New Age crusty types, and they were letting him look after their kids while they went out raving.
Idiots.
Yeah, and it was, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And I very quickly, in a matter of months, become what they call the SPOC, the single point of contact, for anyone tracking down a sex offender on a canal. And I had such a network of informants and knowledge, because I just would cycle the canals and I would stop at every boat and I told them that, what are your crime concerns? And they'd say, we're worried about kids throwing stones. So that was what the boating community were worried about. Their main thing, kids threw stones at them or nicked their push bike. So I said, right, okay, well, I'll deal with that. So I'd get a team of officers together and we'd go and catch these kids throwing stones. and try and catch people who nick their bikes and set up a bike marking scheme. I had no interest in that at all. But in doing so, I said, right, we need a little communication between each other. So if you can give me your names and your date of birth, I'll put you on my database and I will update you. I knew that these people were pedophiles, right? But there is no legal requirement to register a boat under your name. So no one knew who these people were, right? They were totally out of society. So in catching kids throwing stones and finding bikes that had been chucked in canals, recovering it for them, I built up their trust, which I smashed in a heartbeat. Because as soon as I got their details, put it through the system, ping. Honestly, it was like lights going up everywhere. Ping, 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 ping.
Wow.
Yeah. And it got so big.